In this video, we're going to learn about the position property. This is a CSS property that allows us to move elements out of where they normally are and position them in a different way. And there are 4 different position values that we are going to talk about. The first one is static, and I'm going to add that to this telescope 1. I've given each of these the images that we're going to work with a class so that we can access them individually. Now, you can add position properties to other things besides images. I use images for the example because they're so visible to see what it is where they're moving for. So here I have one with an image where class is set to telescope 1. Notice that it is also set class equals right. So if you have an element that has class equal to 2 different values, you just put the first value and then leave a space and put the second value. So you can add multiple class values to a single element. And here I've done just that. So I'm going to work with class telescope 1. And I'm going to set the position property to static. Now, static is the default value for position. And notice nothing happened because that's what it was already set at. And static is considered non-positioned. That an element, if their position is not set, it is static. And so it's static with or without adding that position value. All right, let's do the next position value, and we'll do that with this heat 1. Oh, this is heat 2 image, and we're going to use position relative this time. Now, relative, when you set it, nothing happens as well when you just very first set it. So notice there it is. For relative to work, we need to add a couple of other values, and these are the position values: top, right, left, or bottom. And so let's say that from the top we want it to be positioned 60 pixels, and from the right we want it to be let's do 90 pixels from the right. So relative says from where you currently are, so relative to where you belong, move from the top 60 pixels and move from the right 90 pixels. There we go. There we see that it moved from the top 60 pixels and from the right of where it belonged 90 pixels. And also notice that it saved the space. Now I'm going to do right negative 90 pixels. So this is saying from where you were, move in the right direction a negative 90 pixels. And so it's going to take it the way out to the side. So notice that with relative, the space where that image or whatever element is preserved. So the space where it belongs is preserved and the image is moved out. And it can move a long ways away and take up other space, but no matter how far it goes, the space where it was is preserved. And that's one thing that's unique about relative, that it preserves the space. Let's look at this one down here. I'm going to, let's just do this next one. I'm going to, this one is telescope 2, and let's go ahead and make it fixed. And we will set the position fixed. Now fixed also uses top, right, bottom, and left to identify where to put it. But now these numbers, instead of being, it tells the position from the viewport. The viewport is the part of the web page that you can see. So the viewport is this browser window. And I can say keep it fixed in the viewport and do it from the bottom. Let's do 200 pixels from the bottom. And let's go from the left, and let's only go 60 pixels from the left. And there we go. So we got 60 pixels from the left and how many? 200 pixels from the bottom. And now watch as we scroll. Notice that the fixed position is relative to the viewport. The viewport is not changing. It is this entire browser window. And so as you scroll, that stays in a fixed position relative to the viewport. Now if I change the viewport, watch what happens. So the viewport is the part you can see. So as I change that viewport and gets narrow, it covers up a different area of the web page because it's related. It's 60 pixels from the left and 200 from the bottom. So fixed positions it according to based on the viewport. Now another thing about fixed is notice that this image is staying on top of all the other images. So we can change that. If you want it to go behind them, you can give it a smaller z-index. So I'm going to set the z-index to a negative number, and then I know it'll be smaller than all the others. And then it goes behind it. Z-index talks about whether it's in front of or behind. Okay? Now notice how it's behind, and remember that this image was right here in this section and the words were next to it. So with fixed, the place where that element used to be, where it belonged before we set the position, is not preserved. So the words just moved in and took over that space. The last value for position that we're going to look at is absolute. So let's do this picture down here that class set to galaxy and set the position to absolute. Now absolute also works with top or bottom or left or right. So let's go ahead and go top and do 60 pixels and do left. Oh, not left. Nope, didn't. Left. And let's do 200 pixels from the, well, let's just do 20 pixels from the left. Come back over and refresh. Whoa, and that picture is gone. So we know that the space that it was at is not preserved. So it turns out that relative is the only one that reserves the space of where the element was. And now we find it clear up here. So the way absolute works is that it positions it along the lines of the first ancestor with an element that has position set. Now notice that none of its ancestors have position set, so it's just doing it through the whole HTML. Notice that it doesn't scroll, that it stays at the top of the HTML. So up here top, 60 pixels from the top, 20 pixels from the left. So if we go into where this image is, okay, it's right here's galaxy, and we take this section that it's in and we give it a position value. So let's say that this class is our WISE class, and we go over here and we say, okay, we want the WISE class to set the position, and we're going to set it to relative. Remember that relative didn't move it at all when we didn't give it values, and so we'll use relative because we're pretty comfortable it'll stay where it is. So there it is. So here is the section that now has position set to relative, and this image is inside there. So now it's going to be positioned based on that. So it's 60 pixels from the top of that section and 20 pixels from the left of that. If we say we want it to be 220 from the left edge of that section, it gets moved over 120 pixels or 220 pixels from the left edge of that section. Okay, so it absolute is positioned based according to the first ancestor that has a position set, something other than static. And there's 4 different values for position: static, relative, fixed, and absolute. You can do a variety of things with them.